I'm Devin Kogan from Entertainment Weekly, and I'm here at EW Studio at Comic-Con with Neil Gaiman and Douglas Mackinnon of Good Omens. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this show. I guess I'll start by talking to you, Neil. I mean, like, how is showrunner life treating you?
Showrunner life is great. I mean, you normally, as a writer of television, you are absolutely in control and chief and head of everything until the moment that you hand over the finished scripts, at which point suddenly the lowliest coffee person has more influence on what is actually shot than you do. So what's been great has been just working as a team with Douglas now for the last year and a half on casting, on planning, on shooting, and now we're together editing and just really trying to make a show that the late Sir Terry Pratchett would have enjoyed.
That was one of the things I wanted to ask you about, is because I know you've talked about how bittersweet this experience has been to make it without Terry Pratchett. Has there been anything, you know, that was specifically Terry that you wanted to include in the show, or anything where you think, you know, this is how Terry would have wanted us to do it?
There's a scene in the book where a witch named Agnes Nutter gets burned. And that scene was pure Terry. It was one of the things he brought to the book. And when there were discussions, I wrote it in the script, when there were discussions about making it cheaper or cutting it out, I had to explain to our then producers that, no, this was Terry's scene. It was...
We were going to shoot it. We were going to shoot it. And what's funny is, the scene itself involves Agnes Nutter being burnt at the stake. And so she's a witch, and we actually did it by complete coincidence on Halloween last year.
That's amazing.
So we could at least claim to have burnt a witch at the stake on Halloween.
On Halloween?
Yeah.
Perfectly serendipitous. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about casting, because David Tennant and Michael Sheen, as our demonic and angelic, you know, stars, what was it about the two of them that made them the right people to play?
They needed a break.
That was why?
That was why, yeah.
You know, it was really interesting. I've known Michael for about a decade now, and I even got him to sort of cameo in my episode of Doctor Who, The Doctor's Wife. He plays House, the evil planet, the voice of the planet. And I went to him in the early days of putting Good Omens together, and I said, I want you to be in this. And I want you to star. And he's like, obviously, you want me to be Crowley, the cool demon with the dark glasses. And I'm like, no. I want you to be Aziraphale, the lovable, fussy angel who everybody thinks is gay and probably isn't. But because he's an angel, he's not a person. But that's who I want you to be. And he took a little bit of nudging, just because it's not the kind of part people normally cast Michael as. They don't normally go, Michael Sheen, he's so lovable. They go, he's prickly and spiky and brilliant. And he gave us a performance that is absolutely lovable. But what's amazing is when you put him and David together on the screen, you get something special.
It's kind of like, if you think of Butch and Sundance and Thelma and Louise all together, it's like a mix that you can't believe. It's like treasure trove stuff.
Better as a duo.
And David Tennant I worked with on Doctor Who, and so putting them together, it was just like, you know, Scotland's favourite actor and Wales's favourite actor together on screen for the first time. And they were magical from the read-through forward. So at the read-through, you could actually see them becoming a team, and it's just there on the screen. It's like that thing that you can't really specify why it works, but it just works. A trait. It might be something to do with the writing as well.
That helps.
I gave them good lines, and Terry gave them good lines, but they brought the magic.
Yeah.
And they also brought a kind of, it is that chocolate and peanut butter thing where they taste good individually, and you put them together, and now you've got something special.
Exactly. And then also, I have to ask about Jon Hamm as the Angel Gabriel, who is a character who wasn't really didn't play that much of a role in the book.
Just he doesn't come on in the book. He's just mentioned as being appalling. And Aziraphale obviously doesn't like him.
Another actor who needed help from their career as well.
And what's been so lovely is that, you know, the book was published almost 30 years ago,
right?
And in that time, it's gone off and got a lot of fans, and people who love Good Omens love it in a very specific way. It's very personal to them. So Jon Hamm was one of those people, and he read it when he was at college, and he loved Good Omens, and he was so excited. You know, he was saying he couldn't understand how anybody could make it into a series, and then he was sent the scripts and understood and signed up immediately. And he's fantastic as this appalling angel.
Angel.
He's wonderful. And we have so many people. Michael McKean,
Yeah.
who I'd originally had in mind for a tiny, tiny part, and I went to see him on Broadway in The Little Foxes. And at the end of it, I said to him, how would you like to, can you do a sort of Scottish accent, and could you come to England for 3 months? And he said, yeah, all right. And he did.
Sure.
And he did, and he was amazing. And he's got such a nuanced way of performing. I mean, of course, he was in Spinal Tap, so he'd cracked the English accent, but I had to help him with the Scottish accent a little bit. But he got there. He was amazing.
A little bit of guidance.
A little bit of guidance. You know, they all need a little bit of help. But no, we've got an amazing cast. And Miranda Richardson, of course, as well, and Jack Whitehall, and
Adria,
and we've got all sorts of people coming in for day parts, like Derek Jacobi, and they're
Nick Offerman.
Nick Offerman, David Morrissey.
Amazing. So you mentioned how the book, you wrote the book 28 years ago, or that was published 28 years ago.
Yep.
When you were 12, right?
Something like that. So when did how do you go about adapting this book and updating it for, a show that comes out in 2019?
Weirdly, that wasn't too hard.
Yeah.
The only thing that we had to give up was cassettes in cars. Oh. The cassettes went away, but we still have some CDs.
Is there still some Queen?
There might be a little bit of Queen.
There might be. Okay, that's a little Freddie Mercury. Okay.
A little bit of Queen.
There's definitely we continue to be. You could not do Good Omens without Queen.
There you go.
And I think that is the fairest possible answer. How much Queen we're going to get, and whether we get all of the Queen that we want, we will find out.
But as long as there's something,
There will be a lot.
Well, Queen was the first concert I ever went to when I was 15.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh
so,
my God, I can't imagine.
So I was a big fan. So Queen have to be in it.
Of course, you gotta. So the book has such a unique tone where you've got the comedy and the satire, but these big religious themes of death and existence and things. How do you, when you're making this show, how do you guys approach the tone? How do you
take it very seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets funny when we're serious.
It was really weird. The first audition tapes that were sent in by the casting director, everything about them was wrong, and
because people were doing it comedy.
It kind of threw me.
Yeah.
And I was looking at them and going, none of these are right. And then I realized that all of the people knew that they were in a comedy, so they were trying to do funny acting. Mm. And I sent a message to the casting director saying, serious. Everything has to be as serious as possible. And everything does. Everything in this story has emotional weight. Nobody gets to mug for the camera. We get really good actors. And we get to tackle big themes. We get to... One of the bits that was the most fun for me was episode 3, where the first 25 minutes, half an hour, is the history of Crowley and Aziraphale through the ages.
Which is not in the book.
Which is not in the book. And we get to see them, we get to see them in the French Revolution, we get to see them at the Globe Theatre, we get to see them during the Second World War, but we also get to see them at the Crucifixion, we get to see them at the Ark. And a lot of what they're talking about is big. And we don't shy away from that.
Lean into it, absolutely. I know you've talked about how you and Terry had talked about writing a sequel at one point, and you've sort of, because you said there's a lot of stuff in the series that isn't in the original book, but you've sort of borrowed.
Exactly. I borrowed it from a book we never wrote.
There you go.
We talked about a sequel that we never wrote, and one of the things that we talked a lot about in that was the idea of our heaven, the idea of our hell, how they were set up, what kind of places they were, how you got all of that kind of stuff, which meant that then when I came to this and I went, okay, I really need a heaven and I really need a hell, they were there waiting for me. The stuff that Terry and I had come up with all of those years ago was just there.
To be able to draw on that would be so cool.
And we've talked about the Good Omens television show as being the television draft of Good Omens.
I like
you know
that.
what I mean? So it's kind of it's a different thing, but it's absolutely in the spirit of Good Omens, but it's a different thing. It has to be. Adaptation doesn't quite cover it somehow. It's a television draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite possible that your favorite line will not be in this because your favorite line is in the book. But by the same token, we promise we will give you moments, if you're a Good Omens fan, that you will treasure and delight in because it's stuff that was happening off stage during the book, or it's stuff that is alluded to but you never actually see, and here we get to see it.
So it kind of expanding the world a little bit.
Exactly. If anybody had ever wondered how come Crowley had a thermos flask filled with holy water in his safe in the book, you just discover he did. Now you discover how he got it.
Find out why.
Interesting.
Exactly.
So for you, what has been the scene or the moment that has been the most fun to bring to life with the show?
Oh, what a great question. I think my favorite moment that we got to bring to life, probably just the bookshop.
Yeah?
Because we built a bookshop that is your dream bookshop. We built the bookshop that is the bookshop that is Aziraphale's dream bookshop. And it's sort of perfect and wonderful. And members of the crew were saying, would anybody notice if we just sort of lived here?
Just find a little corner, where the paperbacks.
And the scene, there's a scene in the book where the bookshop burns down. And it's tragic, and Crowley is in there, and we shot it. We shot it by building a £1 million set of a bookshop and then burning it down.
Very carefully burning it down.
Very carefully.
Very carefully.
With David Tennant inside, which I got. People said, "How are you going to do that scene?" And I said, "Well, we're going to burn down a bookshop with David Tennant inside," and I got the nearest thing to slightly unhinged and worried people sending me threats, and it's like, he will be fine. It's
You can't
okay.
set David Tennant on fire.
Exactly.
Funnily enough, David Tennant sent me unhinged threats about that.
Don't set me on fire.
Yeah, how are we going to do this? But we did it very carefully.
Very carefully.
He survived. He only got singed a little bit.
That's the key. So to wrap things up, I mean, what has been, your biggest surprise working on this whole project? What is it? What were you not expecting? What has kind of surprised you?
I wasn't expecting how moving it was.
Yeah?
When I sat down about 3-4 months ago, and Douglas showed me the first rough cut, 7 hours of television, I'm sitting there going, oh, well, that we've got to fix, and that's wrong, and that's too long, and stuff like that. And then we got to the end, and we got to the end of episode 6, and I'm watching the stuff that happens right at the end, and I realized that I'm all teary. And that took me completely by surprise. And I thought, okay, well, if it can do that to me, and I wrote this, and I've been in here, now we have to just sort of make that happen to everybody who watches.
That's good to be able to root it in that place of real emotion. Absolutely.
It really was. And also, for me, it's we made it for Terry. I made it for Terry. And I think he would have liked it. I think he'd be pleased with what we made. That's
the best stamp of approval. Well, I know I can't wait to see it, and thank you guys so much for stopping by.
Pleasure, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Can't wait for 2019.